welcome in everybody to this second edition of Strange Graves. Probably the last time that we announce which edition because I'm sure we'll forget going forward. I am your host, Rob Coakley, joined as always by Dave Wilkins.
Hello, Rob Coakley.
And Jesse Wilkins.
Welcome in to you guys.
Thank you.
And you as well. You're
thanks.
here.
That was really nice of you.
Yeah, so today we are going to talk about 5 more strange graves that I have come across in the entire world. There's all different graveyards from America, I believe France. I don't even remember everywhere we're covering, but we will say where they are. And I think the easiest way to do this is to just jump right into it. Just a few things real quick. We will, for our audio listeners, describe what the grave looks like as much as we can, but we highly encourage you to come watch this on YouTube. And this is the last time that Strange Graves will be on the regular podcast feed, as this will move to a Patreon exclusive throughout every couple months over on Patreon. So make sure you subscribe over there.
And keep sending them in. If you find a strange grave, especially if you know the strange story behind the strange grave, send it over on Discord or shoot us an email if you're not part of the Discord, and we will consider covering it. So let's do this. It was a lot of fun last time. We had a lot of absolutely wild stories, some stories that I'll never forget, honestly, and just some crazy graves. And it's even cooler when you find out what the backstory is with these absolutely peculiar little markings.
And some of these are only backstory too. You'll see what I'm talking about as we go through this, but we're going to start with one that looks very normal. Before I show it to you guys, it looks very normal, but you'll see why it's strange in a second. And this is the grave of Lily Gray, and her grave is in Salt Lake City in the Salt Lake Cemetery. And I got this write-up from Atlas Obscura, but before we get into the write-up, why don't I show you guys the grave and I'll read it for everybody. Just a standard little grave on the ground here. Nothing out of the ordinary looking.
Okay, so for audio listeners, what we're looking at is what looks like a perfectly normal grave. It says on the top, it just says Lily E. Gray. That's obviously her name. It has the date of birth and date of death, June 6, 1881 to November 14th, 1958. So a nice long life. And you might think nothing of it until you read what's inscribed right below it, which just says victim of the beast 666, which is extremely alarming, almost as alarming as what I originally thought it said, which I thought it said victim of the beast egg. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the egg got her. So that's what we're looking at for audio listeners. And I am very interested in what this story is. Please tell us the tale, Robert.
Even if there's a story behind it, which I'm sure there is, or we wouldn't be talking about it, what extreme could it be that they actually put the inscription on the gravestone?
Well, if she's a victim of the beast egg, you got to put that on the gravestone.
It would be funny if there's a bunch of change at the grave if everyone just came and left eggs instead.
If I go way of the beast egg, I need you guys to definitely put that on my grave because it would be a waste.
All right. So the write-up from Atlas Obscura is the strange inscription on this tombstone reads Lily E. Gray, victim of the beast 666. But it's unclear which is stranger, the inscription or the fact that no one seems to know what it means or why it was placed here. It seems inherently mean-spirited, yet everything else about the grave marker seems lovingly planned and cared for, which is true. It is a really normal, nice-looking stone. It has flowers on it. It has real flowers on it. It looks perfectly normal except for that inscription. It has been more than half a century since Lily died, and the mystery of the meaning behind the inscription endured for many years. According to the Utah State Historical Society, Edith Lillian Gray died of natural causes at the age of 77. The inscription on her gravestone was the work of her second husband, Elmer Gray. And you knew that someone named Elmer had to do this, right? Like Elmers are always plotting.
Elmers always suspect the beast egg.
Marriage records show that Elmer and Lily were married in Elko, Nevada on July 10th, 1952. After Lily died on November 14th, 1958, Elmer blamed her death on the beast 666 of the government. According to documents, Elmer Gray reported being kidnapped by 5 Democrat officials. Sources have reported that Lily's family did not care for Elmer. When he died in 1964, he was buried in the same cemetery, but far away from his late wife's burial plot. Dude, like, even if you think it's the government, what are you doing? Why is this the inscription that you go with?
I don't know. I mean, it's much less exciting now that I found out it's just politics, but it's still such a dark message to leave on your late wife's grave.
It's insane that he was allowed to put this. I understand that he's her husband, but the family can't be like, hey, we think that's too much. We just think that doesn't need to be there, right?
Yeah, I mean, victim of the beast 666, aka natural causes. Like, I don't know.
And I have another picture here that shows that a bunch of people leave stuff here as well,
including a ballpoint pen
and a business card for some reason.
Can you zoom in?
It's like it's Wells Fargo.
It does look like a Wells Fargo business card.
It is a Wells Fargo business card.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Why are we doing that?
I don't know. Maybe it was her business card. Maybe that's what she did.
Is that whiteout? Like one of those little whiteout pen things?
Yeah, there's some whiteout there. There's some limoncello. There's a rubber band because you need that.
I wonder if she worked as like a secretary or something with the whiteout pen, the ballpoint pen, the rubber band. Maybe these are things that she liked. Maybe it looks more like someone just came and emptied their pockets. But you would hope that these have some sort of sentimental value.
But it's been over 60 years, so who's like, you know what she needs? This ballpoint pen that she loved 65 years ago. Very odd. Yeah. Very odd. All right, let's move on to our next grave. This is going to be the grave of Jonathan and Mary Reed. And this is not just a grave. This is actually a mausoleum, and it's in Brooklyn, New York. And I got this story from HuffPost, where the author is Jessica Ferry. And if you look at it, it's a very normal looking, we're starting with some normal graves, right? This looks like a very normal mausoleum. Nothing super out of the ordinary, right, on this one? You guys would agree? Just a big stone mausoleum with a big marble circle up top and the name Jonathan and Mary E. Reed on it. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is on Strange Graves. It's common practice to reserve a plot next to your loved one's grave in anticipation of your own death, but Jonathan Reed took it one step further. The retired merchant was devastated when his beloved wife, Mary E. Gold Reed, died in 1893. After Mary's interment in her father's family vault on March 19th of that year, Jonathan visited regularly, a little too often, in the opinion of his father-in-law. It's his wife who's like, he can't go visit his wife. Doesn't that seem?
It seems like the father-in-law may have had an issue with him the whole time.
It sounds like it, but let's get a little further into the story. When Mary's father died in 1895, Reed was free to visit her tomb to his heart's content. So he had her casket transferred to another vault in the Whispering Grove section of the cemetery. There, he put an empty casket next to hers, a placeholder for his inevitable end. And it is here that Jonathan Reed's tale takes a surprising twist. Do either of you want to guess what the surprising twist is?
He couldn't wait and jumped in early.
He still hasn't died over 100 years later.
That would be a twist. Unable to bear being away from his wife's corpse, Jonathan moved into Mary's mausoleum.
Oh, I wasn't wrong.
He brought furniture and a wood stove and cheered the place up with mementos from Mary's life. Her paintings, her unfinished knitting.
Now I see. Now I am on the father-in-law's side.
Yeah.
This is why he didn't want you there. You're just going to move in, you bum.
And he also brought the family's pet parrot, which upon the death of the bird was stuffed.
See, now the bird, if you told me the bird was still alive, I'd believe that.
That's true. Yeah, they last forever.
Apparently.
Oh. Jonathan even took his meals inside the crypt. As news of the devoted widower spread, visitors came to catch a glimpse of the man who now made his home living amongst the dead.
Okay, now these visitors are just peeping toms. This is his home now. You don't just go watch the man as he stuffs his birds.
Do you think he stuffed the bird himself?
Maybe.
Are you listening to this story? Yes, he stuffed the bird himself. This man is not well.
Nearly 7,000 people reportedly wandered through Evergreen Cemetery for the sole purpose of encountering Jonathan Reed. The New York Times even covered the story, explaining helpfully, quote, Mr. Reed could never be made to believe that his wife was really dead. His explanation of her condition being that the warmth had simply left her body, and that if he kept the mausoleum warm, she would continue to sleep peacefully in the costly metallic casket in which her remains were put. End quote.
Yeah, I think he was still making love to that corpse. I'm
Yeah.
getting real making love to the corpse vibes, a little necrophilia action going on inside this mausoleum. That's why there were so many spectators.
Yeah. Maybe a little less creepy version of the one we had in Florida. Yeah, in Key West there.
Still pretty creepy.
Yeah, only a little less creepy.
For nearly 10 years, Jonathan made his happy home in Mary's tomb. Then in May... What?
I bet he did. Real happy home in there.
Then in May 1905, caretakers discovered his still body on the crypt's floor, his arms outstretched to the casket of his dearly departed wife. Jonathan Reed was interred next to Mary in his prepared casket. The doors to the vault were sealed. While the doors remain locked to this day, you can still visit the Reed's tomb at Evergreen Cemetery in Bushwick, Brooklyn. The grounds are open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
Huh. Do you think they left like his microwave oven in there, or do you think they cleared out some of the normal stuff that he brought in?
He had a microwave oven in the early 1900s?
That's right.
Yep. All right. No, what we want to know is if the stuffed parrot's still in there.
I wonder that, and I also wonder if they even bothered bringing him to the Undertaker, or if they just scooped him up and stuffed him in his coffin.
They were just like, he's already here.
He's here.
He's here.
Seems like a lot of extra steps.
Let's just stuff him in there because he likes to stuff birds, stuff him in his casket. He's there. This is where he clearly wants to be anyways. Just put him in there.
They should have buried him at his home.
Oh, no.
Well, you had it backwards.
Oh, no.
I wonder if his father-in-law stepped in and was like, get him out of here. Bury him somewhere else.
Well, he passed away. Remember, that's why he moved the body. He waited till his father-in-law died before he moved her body.
Right.
So that is the tale of Jonathan and Mary Reed. I again, the grave itself wasn't strange, but the story behind it. He lived in it for 10 years before.
Yeah, that story's wild. What year did he die?
1903, I believe.
Can you pull their picture back up? I want to look at him again and see how weird he is.
You're asking me a really hard thing to do right now.
Oh, I just thought it was like the last one that you had up.
I've been Xing him out as I go.
Never mind.
That's fine. You can go rewind the tape and look at the picture.
Yes.
What a strange man. Poor guy. He was heartbroken. That was his wife.
He might have just been weird. I mean,
clearly.
He's not the first guy to lose his wife. It's just most people don't behave like that.
That's true. Most people do not behave like this. That is absolutely true. However, if I die, rather than having my wife remarry, I would rather that she did this. I know I sound controlling and, to death do us part is the vows, but please.
That sounds frightening.
Are you going to have a mausoleum, Jesse? Is that the plan?
I haven't planned out my death yet. No. So
no, I've planned out your death many times.
You guys are I'm only 21 years old, so you guys are significantly older than me. So I can understand that now.
That's true.
All right, let's jump into our next grave, and we're going to travel to Paris, France for this one. And this is at the Père Lachaise Cemetery. This is actually the same cemetery that Jim Morrison is buried in as well. And this is the grave of Fernand Arbelot. So let's take a look at his grave real quick. And Dave, do you want to?
Is he in a mausoleum or his remains are below?
Well, Dave, I'm going to have you actually describe the grave this time for everybody, or the stone.
Okay. All right. So it's got a Statue of Liberty type thing going on. It's green, looks oxidized, and it's super weird. So
that's your first observation.
Yeah. Some other things are going on. It's basically like
you're great at this. Some other things are going on.
It is basically a statue of a man lying in the prone position, facing up, and he looks dead. And above his chest, he's cradling a face that looks also dead. And it looks like it could be a mask, but I think it actually looks more like just a disembodied face.
Jesse, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's definitely not like a full. He's not holding like a head. It's because it's like it looks more like a mask. I think you're right. This is very, very creepy. The mask, it's very human-like face, and it seems to have a bit of a smirk to it.
Yeah.
But the oxidation makes it look like it's like crying. Oh God, this is terrifying. It makes it look like it's like crying blood, as these things do when they start to get like this if you don't clean them up.
Yeah, so it almost looks like, if you can imagine what it might have looked like brand new, still pretty creepy, but they definitely didn't take into consideration that when this thing did start oxidizing, when birds started shitting on it, as it was apparent here.
Apparently, like a golden goose was shitting on it, because that looks like pure gold dripped on it.
Maybe it's the egg of the beast was on it. But they didn't take into consideration how much more terrifying this would look as it aged.
So as I see more graves like this, I start to understand why. Have you guys seen the process of cleaning up the oxidation off these types of things?
No.
It's basically, have you seen, well, I'm sorry, have you seen it, Dave?
I've polished copper before which basically you put the polish on a rag and it removes the oxidation and the tarnish.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah.
I was watching a video while I was at a museum last week of them doing it. Now, it's a much more delicate process when you're dealing with historical artifacts, thousands of years old and stuff, but they were basically using, have you seen a tattoo being removed with like the laser?
Yeah.
Where it's like pop, 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 and it's doing like all these short bursts of like laser activity or whatever, and it removes it like that. They're actually using that on these older Greek statues, and it was super satisfying to watch, but it looks like it probably took them weeks and weeks and weeks to clean up these older statues.
Yeah. And again, I think I was talking about removing tarnish from copper. This looks like it might not be copper, although the oxidation on it does look like copper.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
you see this on like marble and stuff as well, which it could be.
Let's talk about Fernand. And this is
actually, it's pronounced croissant.
Okay. This is from Teresa's Haunted History. According to a brief biography written by Kit and Morgan Benson, not much is known about the musician, actor, and architect Fernand Arbelot. And what I would like to say is, if not much is known, you just described 3 different things that this man did. It sounds like you knew a lot about him.
Sounds like you know a lot about him.
However, he has left quite a legacy in the form of a very unique tomb located in Paris's Père Lachaise Cemetery.
It's pronounced croissant.
The tomb depicts a man lying on his back, holding up a disembodied head and gazing into its cold stone eyes. An epitaph reads, "They were amazed at the beautiful journey which led them to the end of life."
They did such a better job of describing that than me and Dave did.
Yeah, they really did.
like
why didn't you just read that?
You had the answers right in front of you and you made us stumble over our words. Looks like it's got some things going on. It's got some stuff. Croissants.
Sources say that the stone is the work of Belgian sculptor Adolphe Wanzart and completed in 1946, 4 years after Arbelot's death. Arbelot was born in 1880, and a Parisian newspaper ran an obituary for him on November 19th, 1942. Again, very little information was given other than he was serving as a director in the Westminster Bank.
Suspicious reporter's name there for 1942. Reporter's name was what? Adolphe Wanzart.
Yes.
Hitler he wanted to be a painter. Adolphe wants art. I'm starting to put the pieces together.
You're getting there. Legend states that Arbelot's wish behind the tomb design was to gaze upon the beautiful face of his wife for all eternity.
That's okay. Oh, that's a woman.
And I'm here to say his wife may have been beautiful in person. And this face that he's holding, laying down on the ground,
ain't.
It ain't beautiful. It is actually horrific and terrifying and one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life.
There's no beautiful face you could put on there where in this
No.
position that makes it not be terrifying. Even if it's a beautiful face, it's still terrifying. I do
Right.
wonder if it's cleaned up, it doesn't look like it's an ugly woman. So if they were to clean it up without like the black marks all over it and it looks like it's crying blood, if they were to clean it up, I bet it would actually would look equally as creepy, but not of like an ugly woman. I thought it was maybe him looking at an image of his younger self or something like that. That was kind of my first instinct, but could be a woman.
Some unsubstantiated claims indicate that he sped the desire along by killing her before taking his own life in a murder-suicide that would give Romeo and Juliet a run for their money.
That wasn't as good of a story as Romeo and Juliet. I don't know if that gives it a run for
Romeo
their
and
money.
Juliet wasn't a murder suicide either.
It was just a suicide, wasn't it?
Yeah, just a suicide pact.
What is known is that Arbelot passed away during the Nazi occupation of Paris, a very dark period of time in French history. And while not much is known about his life, his name will forever be known thanks to a very unusual piece of funerary art.
This one's awesome. I want this, but instead of me holding a face, just put like a pineapple in my head. Not a pineapple. Can't do that anymore. I'll think of something good. We'll be right back.
How about the devil egg or deviled eggs?
Yeah.
A tray of deviled eggs.
You fat piece of shit. No. As I listed off all foods as well. No, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, why don't you guys in the comments let us
Give
know
me a
what
frog.
Jesse should
Yeah.
be holding?
Give us a monstrous fellow. Give us a giant
Yes.
frog in my hands. We're just staring deeply into its eyes.
Yes.
It's frog eyes.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is
Except the placement of the hands wouldn't work because they'd be covering the frog's eyes.
That's a good point. Yeah, we need a different animal. Give me a fish. Just a
That'd
big
be
old
hilarious.
fish. Just staring lovingly into a fish.
no. It has to be something like out there, like a baby elephant or something. Like something.
How is a baby elephant more out there than holding a fish?
Because people hold fish every day. They go fishing. You don't go elephanting.
Some do.
Well, those are the worst type of people.
Yeah.
They are the worst type of people.
Especially
All
if
right.
you're holding baby elephants, aka dinosaurs. Anyways, moving on.
All
We
right,
won't do this again.
let's move on to St. Louis, Missouri, and let's talk about the girl in the shadow box. And this is it's a statue of a girl in a glass case. It's like a shadow box, something you keep in your house, just a very large version of it.
I don't have any of these in my house.
You know, I'm talking about shadow boxes.
Oh, I thought you meant massive graves. It is very ghostly looking, though. She looks like,
That's cool.
for audio listeners, it looks like there's a ghost floating inside of this shadow box. Let's not get Dave excited with all this shadow box talk.
just starts throwing haymakers.
You haven't seen shadow boxing until you've seen MMA Dave shadow box.
All right.
I will
so-
say, shadow boxing with Dave always turns into real boxing. Don't let him fool you. There's no such thing as light sparring with MMA Dave. You will get injured.
It's actually a real story. That is not that's not fake news.
Oh, I've never told a lie.
All of my opponents are also in graves.
This is one of them. Anyways, continuing on with the story.
So this isn't what it would appear, because you would think that this is the woman who's buried here, right? Like that would be your assumption, or some sort of angel or something.
Mhm.
It's going to get a little different on this one. This is written from Atlas Obscura. In St. Louis's Bellefontaine Cemetery stands a beautiful marble sculpture encased in a stone chamber with a glass window, commonly referred to as Bessie, the Girl in the Shadow Box. It does not depict a person buried there, but a girl for whom a local man longed.
Oh, God.
Herman Lutais, owner of the first proprietary owner of the first proprietary drugstore in St. Louis and one of the pioneers of homeopathy in the area, visited Italy in the early 1900s. During this trip, he fell for a beautiful girl who was modeling for the Genesois sculptor Julio Monteverde. After she turned down his proposals, the heartbroken Lutais commissioned Monteverde to create a 12-foot marble statue of her. This is how you win her back, or win her in the first place. She turns you down.
You move to another country and build a statue of her. That'll get
build
her.
a 12-foot statue of her. On his return, the sculpture was shipped to St. Louis, where he kept it in the foyer of his home in Portland Place. Just a 12-foot statue in your home, NBD. Due to its massive weight, it had to be relocated to the family burial plot in Bellefontaine.
That's what we had to do with Rob.
That's right. That's where I stay now. Don't let this background fool you.
After all those deviled eggs, we had to relocate him because of his massive weight.
Lutais added the glass screen for protection when it started to wear and weather away. When Lutais passed in 1921 at the age of 50, he was buried in Bellefontaine Cemetery at the foot of his beloved. While this story may sound romantic to some, to who? To who? Like who is some? Who
just
is this?
Literally just him.
They're the same people who write love letters to serial killers.
I guess so, man.
No, this guy was writing love letters to nobody. He just saw someone who's like, love that person, dedicating my life and death to her.
Crazy. One often overlooked fact is bound to burst the bubble. Lutais had already been married when he proposed to the girl in Italy. As for the girl herself, not much is known about her. She was the model for the universally praised Monteverde Angel in the Monumental Cemetery in Milan, whose imitations can be found around the world. It's unclear what her name was, what her life was like, or afterwards, or where she was buried. How do we not know her name if she's like in every cemetery, apparently?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's crazy. And he's already married. And he's just like, I'm married, but hear me out.
We're in a different country. Would you like to get married?
We're in a different country. I can build you a 6-foot, 8-foot, 10-foot, 12-foot marble statue of yourself. We'll ship it back to St. Louis. We'll put it in the living room.
We'll grab some deviled eggs and we'll just chow those down and take a look at this thing. Hope I get my money's worth. Actually, this is a beautiful sculpture, though. It does look great. And this is, I guess, how you could protect it from looking like it's crying tears of blood. It's a wonderful sculpture. It looks great. And I like his grave. I mean, his story is one of infidelity or attempted infidelity. You know, like, I don't know. Not a great story, but very cool grave.
There seems to be a theme with this episode. It's like Strange Graves Creepy Dudes edition.
It really is. Huh?
Dudes doing weird shit.
Yeah, I actually didn't think of that as I was putting this episode together, but it definitely is.
Dudes with too much money and time on their hands, I guess. I don't know.
And what do we think the wife thought of this statue that was just like in the foyer of the
There's
house?
no way he told her the actual story. He's like, well, I made it of you. It doesn't look too much like you, but I thought they did a pretty good job.
What if we get buried by it? I'll put it at the graveyard.
There's no. How does a marriage continue if you get home and tell her the truth about this? Listen, it didn't work out, but I proposed to a woman while on vacation. She said no. I hope we can get over this. However, here's a daily reminder in our living room now. It's 12 feet tall. I made her a statue. Did I make you a statue? Yeah, it's on the way. It'll be here soon. This one's here to stay.
Yeah, it's a weird situation.
By the way, it's ruining the foundation of our house, and we have to get it out immediately. It's very heavy.
It's also ruining the foundation of our marriage.
And the floor. It just went through the floor and it killed one of our kids.
Also, who came up with the name Bessie for this thing? This is not a Bessie.
What's it? A small whale? Like, oh, there's Bessie. Like, this is not, Bessie. Nothing about this story is good except for the fact that it is a beautiful sculpture, and I would like to go see it. Next time I'm in St. Louis, I will visit this cemetery. It's on the list.
It's on the list of cemeteries.
On the list.
All right, let's talk about our final grave, and this is going to be the grave of Meg Shelton. And let's. This one is very easy to describe. Jesse, do you want to take a crack at it? It's this.
It's just a rock.
Can you make it smaller? I mean, what is that?
Yeah, Rob has done a great job of finding the smallest images possible to pull up on screen.
I forgot to zoom in on this.
This is It's a rock. It's a pretty big rock.
Mm.
It is
Actually, it looks like it actually might be a kind of small rock based off to scale the graves that are around it. By the way, very cool looking cemetery.
I think it looks like a bunch of small rocks kind of cemented together.
Yeah, maybe a bunch of deviled eggs.
Do either of you want to take a guess why this particular gravestone is this boulder?
Because the family had no money and they found a rock and said, "This will do."
And everything else that you're about to say is probably made up, and that's the real story. But let's hear it anyways.
So this is the grave of Meg Shelton, and she's buried at St. Anne's Churchyard in Wood Plumpton, Lancashire, England.
Let me take one more guess. She
Sure.
was buried somewhere else, and some creepy dude stole her and put her here instead.
Based on this episode, that would make sense.
I'm gonna figure out a way to incorporate some sort of creepy dude story. I hope there is one. Don't let us down, Rob.
All right, so Meg Shelton, recorded in some accounts as Mag or Maggery Hilton, was a local-born woman who resided in the field, the belt of productive farmland that stretches inland from the field coast. It might be filed. It's
I don't think
Filde.
she just lived in the field. I don't know. She's a field person.
Who knows?
Today, the coast is home to modern-day Blackpool and its wider conurbation. There's a lot of English words going on here that I don't know what they are. Researchers differ on the location of her home.
Who wants to tell Rob that that's his native language? Like, I don't understand all this English.
What is this? English? What, do you expect me to speak English?
So, funny story. I have a English friend that is doing some voiceover work for us this week, and he sent me the audio today, and I was listening, and he said a word really strange, and I'm like listening to it. I'm like, is that how they say it in England? And I just sat there and I listened to it maybe 50 times, and I had to write to him. I go, is this how you guys say this word? I just want to make sure. And he goes, no, I just read it completely wrong. I was like, thank God. Thank God. I sent this back to you.
We are attempting to go to England next year, and I do wish that you didn't clarify and you just went to England and said that word completely wrong, whatever it is, the whole time, thinking that that's how the locals say it.
I don't even remember what it is offhand. I'll look it up for you guys later. But
well, this is Rob who just pronounced homopathy.
I did.
That's true. Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm making fun of Rob trying to pronounce English things wrong. Meanwhile, I'm going to kick in the door to the pub and be like, "All right, boy, me a point, and you go."
I have a good video for you guys.
And then everyone's going to turn to me and be like, "Welcome, man. Come have a seat." I can't wait till you guys go to England and realize everybody talks exactly like that.
We're excited for it.
It's going to be beautiful.
We're excited to talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
Researchers differ on the location of her home, with some placing it close to the church in Singleton. Others suggest she lived in a place known as Cuckoo Village or Cuckoo Cottage.
That sounds awesome. I hope she was there.
To the footpath between Singleton and Kirkham. However, there is no disagreement on her final resting place. The grave of Meg Shelton is still to be found in the graveyard of St. Anne's Church in Wood Plumpton, made distinctive by the large glacial boulder that marks the spot. Living in the field in the late 17th century, Meg Shelton gained a reputation as a powerful and malevolent witch.
Oh,
burn her.
She was blamed by local farmers and villagers for causing illness amongst their cattle. They also claimed she would drain whole herds dry of their milk overnight. The stolen milk carried off in a milking pail she enchanted into the form of a goose.
This is so ridiculous.
She was also said to be able to take the form of various animals.
Like for farmers to come up with these things, they should have been called witches. Like they should have been like, wait, you think that a goose carried a magic bucket of water away?
No, the goose was the magic bucket of water.
Bucket of milk.
Bucket of milk. One farmer even reported her spying on him in the form of a sack of grain.
I don't like the way that sack of grain is looking at me. It must be a witch.
It reminds me of the Call of Duty prop hunt.
Yeah. Yep.
After said sack screamed and bled when he impaled it with a pitchfork.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I don't know which part of that is more ridiculous. The fact that he felt the need to stab the sack of grain because it thought it was looking at it funny, or the fact that it screamed and bled. That's This is my favorite story I've ever heard.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
Meg is said to have been found dead in her isolated home in 1705, crushed between a heavy oak barrel and the stone wall. Locals were convinced that her dealing with the devil in return for her magical abilities had resulted in her attracting the ire of the Dark Lord. Eventually, he had returned to claim the soul that was owed to him. The ability for witches to return after their death was commonly believed, and the decision was for Meg to be buried under the cover of darkness in the graveyard at Wood Plumpton in an effort to prevent her return.
Vampire witch.
Very
Yeah.
similar, right?
Killed by
Yeah.
Voldemort. Yeah, I think this is all starting to add up. I think everything that has been told in this story is 100% true.
Probably.
I like the train of thought that they used to make sure that she didn't ever come back from the dead with her supernatural powers. So they just put her under a rock. Like that'll solve it.
That's what you do.
There's no way she'd be able to outsmart this rock with all of her supernatural demonic powers.
Well, they haven't put her under the rock yet in
Oh.
the story.
All right.
The next morning, the grave was found disturbed and the corpse lying close by in the dew-covered grass.
Have we ruled out goose buckets?
Grain, just all the sacks of grain surrounding it.
Mm-hmm.
This continued to happen, with villagers reburying her as darkness fell each evening, only to find a still corpse dragged free from the grave the following morning.
This is creepy, but also sounds like a huge pain in the ass.
It
And also,
does.
this sounds a little bit like one of the ghost stories that we had on Tuesday, where
Yeah.
every time they tried to bury the boy who was afraid of the dark, he would raise out of the ground right around the corner from England, actually, in Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico.
If you just look at a map, they're
Mhm.
really close together.
Yep.
Ultimately,
Pangea.
a priest was sent from nearby Cottam Hall to consecrate the grave to prevent her return.
I can't wait for someone from England to listen to this episode and just be like, wow, Rob said 300 places wrong.
I'm saying so many.
All of
places
them
wrong.
have been completely wrong. I don't know what the right pronunciation is. I can't verify, but I can tell they aren't right.
Oh, they're definitely not right. We know that. We're going to hear it in the comments.
We will.
Right.
Hopefully.
Perhaps unconvinced of the reliability of the priest warding, locals placed a large boulder over the grave in an attempt to prevent her clawing her way out. It is also said that this time she was buried face down, tricking her into digging her way deeper into the earth if she were to reanimate.
That's a thing. That's not the first case. Now, we've seen this in vampire cases, which this is what it's kind of sound like as well, where they bury them upside down. So they just take it. Now there's a huge vampire outbreak in China.
Is there? Yes.
They're digging straight through.
Digging right through.
Yep.
The boulder remains in the graveyard at Wood Plumpton to this day, marked with the simple inscription, "The Witch's Grave." Beneath this stone lies the remains of Mary Shelton, alleged witch of Wood Plumpton, buried in 1705. Unsurprisingly, given its overt reference to a witchly inhabitant, supernatural rumors surrounded the gravesite in Dur. Touching the boulder is supposed to elicit chills or cause one's hairs to stand on end. Some locals maintain that the blessing, or perhaps curse, that keeps Meg bound to her grave must be periodically renewed by visitors circling the grave and spitting upon the stone. Just got
Hawktua.
Octua right on that stone, right? Alternatively, the legend persists that circling the grave 3 times while speaking Meg's name will result in her grasping hands bursting from below the boulder to snatch the culprits. Okay, let's relax.
This is the coolest story ever.
The church's own website offers a more cheerful legend. Standing on the boulder and rotating 3 times will result in a wish being granted.
The church?
The church.
Oh, that doesn't sound like a church rumor.
It does not. So this is the little sign that they have in front of the witch's grave, where that says, "Beneath this stone lies the remains of Meg Shelton, alleged witch of Wood Plumpton, buried in 1705.
I wish they'd update it so it would say buried numerous times in 1705.
I also wish they would.
Yes.
Yes. And this is a little bit more close-up photo of this. It's just a boulder with the inscription, but the grave itself is weird for all the reasons that we just read out. And that is this week's, well, this month's, this quarter's. Are we going to say it's quarterly? I don't know. It is. It is this episode of Strange Graves. You guys have any favorites on this one?
Oh, it's the Goose Witch.
The Goose Witch.
The Goose Witch
That's
might be my all-time favorite.
Yeah, that's the best story, but the best grave that we had in this, I think, was the guy holding the
face.
the face of his wife, I guess.
Yeah.
Very cool grave. And yeah, some good ones in this one.
Yes.
Tell us what you think. You have some strange graves, send it to us on Discord or in the email. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, and that's going to do it. We'll catch you next time. For myself, for Dave, for Jesse, peace.